Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. Good morning. It is morning when I'm shooting this, so I'm getting the day started right. Let's talk about a question over here. Should rap lyrics be admissible in court as evidence against a defendant, or could rap lyrics be threatening enough to even be considered a crime, a terroristic threat? Which is exactly what this story right here next to me revolves around. As Pitchfork and other outlets have reported, we have 21 Savage, Yo Gotti, Styles P, and more rappers named as advisors on a rap music primer being filed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is currently hearing the case of Jamal Knox v. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The case revolves around Knox, a rapper who was 19 when he was sentenced to 2 to 6 years in prison in 2014. He was charged with terroristic threats and witness intimidation, with prosecutors alleging his lyrics targeted specific police officers in Pittsburgh. The case has made its way all the way to the Supreme Court, where Knox's lawyers assert that his First Amendment rights are being violated. Now, Run the Jewels, Killer Mike, and a group of other rappers, including Chance the Rapper, Meek Mill, 21 Savage, Yo Gotti, Styles P, and more, have filed an amicus curiae brief in the Supreme Court case in support of Knox, as the New York Times reports. The brief contains a primer on rap music and hip-hop, as well as intricate breakdowns of the lyrics that were condemned as terroristic threats. So, essentially, the two questions here in this situation, and I will address the first one that relates directly to this case. Should these rap lyrics be considered terroristic threats? Over here via Genius, we actually have the lyrics in question from Mr. Knox that are being considered true threats, these terroristic threats. Keep in mind, these lyrics are being laced into a cover or a version of NWA's Fuck the Police, which he himself sort of remixed or reoriented, and that song in itself is a protest track. The whole point of that song is to be angry toward police, and he's sort of following through on that concept and theme. Now, look, I'm a huge advocate of free speech and the First Amendment, even in the midst of this current online socio-political landscape where most people who say that are just kind of like right-wing hucksters who don't actually care about free speech principles, and they would never talk about a story like this because they're actually not concerned about topics like this. I'm still a big advocate of the First Amendment and free speech, and I do believe that there are legal precedents and there is, logical reasoning behind actually jailing people or fining people or having some kind of legal action against a person who puts forward a credible threat. And some of the check boxes, in my opinion, that would make for a credible threat are, hey, the specifics of what you're going to do, who you're going to do it to, when and where. And it would seem like on the surface, like, yeah, some of that is actually being brought to the table here with this lyric. However, like, one huge requirement in rapping is rhyming. And, like, do we really honestly think this police officer's shift is over at 3 o'clock and that this guy knows it and that he didn't just say 3 so that he could rhyme it with sleep? But does he actually know where the dude sleeps? He doesn't say it in this song. Just by this lyric alone, Knox hasn't exactly proven that he actually knows this information. It seems more like he's using violent rhetoric here and just a few words that have specific qualities to them in order to create a rhymed lyric, and that's it. Again, at least that's what it seems like to me on the surface. In order to prove that this is a real threat, at least this would be my argument, I feel like Pennsylvania would need to prove, does Knox actually know this information? What is the proof that he understands where this dude actually sleeps and that he knows his shift is over at 3 and that this was actually planned? I think that they would need to have more information than this on the table, this random lyric over here, in order to prove that. Like, are there any sort of text messages or emails or anything like that where he's actually like talking to people that might have sort of plan to help him with doing this thing? And that, I think, leads to the other question that this topic raises, and that is whether or not rap lyrics should be admitted in a court case to prove whether or not someone did the crime. Let's go the next step and say that this is not just a threat, but this is literally something Knox did, and now we're hearing a rap lyric about it in retrospect. I think a lot of you may remember recently there was a lot of coverage around YNW Melly because he's been pinned down on a murder case, and a lot of people are citing lyrics from his song Murder on My Mind now. And look, I'm not saying that we couldn't have a scenario where someone commits a murder and then they put lyrics about that murder in a rap song, in a rock song, in a metal song. It could be any kind of song, okay? You've done the crime, and then you have written a song about that crime, and maybe there are even some specifics in the crime that you've worked into the song. Surely those lyrics, I think, can be used to, hey, if he mentions some kind of specific thing in this song, we could investigate into that particular thing and see if there's any sort of lead coming out of that. But rappers rap about committing crimes all the time in their songs, and we know up until this point, because of how many rappers have been outed as liars and fakes and exaggerators and so on and so forth, you can't believe every single rap lyric you hear. Again, sure, if a rapper is being implicated in a crime and they've been dumb enough to actually rap about doing that crime in a song, and there's some kind of specific there to those lyrics that you can go off of in terms of an investigation, I mean, I guess I'm open to that, but bringing that rapper to court and Exhibit A, the lyrics in this song, jury, what you think? You know, obviously, it's a very abridged version of a court case, but still, I think you're going to need more substantial evidence than whatever lyrics a rapper has worked into a song. You know, a rap song isn't exactly like a confession for many reasons, but the biggest of which is hip-hop's history, undeniable history, with just kind of flexing, bending, exaggerating the truth, or just literally putting out lyrics that are nowhere near the truth and have absolutely no connection to it whatsoever. So when it comes to this case and putting Mr. Knox in prison over these lyrics and perceiving them as terroristic threats, I don't think I agree, and I think a worthwhile argument could be made that that is not the case. Now, not to get too political here, I know some of y'all get mad when that's the case, but listen, here's the thing. The current ratio of right-wing to left-wing justices on the Supreme Court right now, I mean, if I'm to go out on a limb here and guess that the right-wing judges are probably going to be less perceptive to Jamal Knox's lawyers' arguments than the left-wing judges are going to be in this case. It may not be looking too good for this case, and I'm not exactly sure if someone like Brett Kavanaugh, for example, is going to be reading over this briefing, you know, filed by Chance and Killer Mike and Meek, and taking it all that seriously. I'm not sure. But hopefully the justices listen to reason, and hopefully they find the arguments made by Mr. Knox's lawyers compelling. Hopefully they find this briefing compelling, and hopefully, once again, this is not a regular thing, putting rappers or putting people in jail for rapping a certain thing in a song. Because the number of rappers who actually do everything they say and carry out what they threaten is so small, where exactly do you set the bar for jailing someone over a lyric or using that lyric against them as evidence? If we're literally going to take every rap lyric we run across at face value, we're going to be putting a lot of people in prison. Pusha T is going to jail for the next 30, 40 years. So I'm going to leave it at that. Those are my thoughts on this. Essentially, over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. We will link you guys in the description box to this article, as well as the Curiae brief that has been submitted to the Supreme Court. You guys can check that out, read that for yourselves too. I will see you guys in the next video. Anthony Fantano forever.